Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL's Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen, Chris Smitherman, producing behind the scenes. I'm Dave Holcomb, and we're joined by a great guest we're really excited to have today. Kelsey Kramer from AtoZ Sports, covers the NFL at large there. An up-and-coming site that NFL fans really need to have their eyes on, and we really love having Kelsey here today. Thanks for joining us.
Guys, I'm excited to be here. It's a new era in Atlanta. And if you asked me 6 months ago to join this podcast, I would have said, heck no.
Yeah, so there is a lot to get to that we want to talk about in the next hour, and we hope that we get some questions from our watchers as well that we can put on screen and have you answer. But yeah, let's start with just your initial reaction to the new era with bringing in Raheem Morris. What was your reaction to the hire?
Honestly, when he was hired, there was no shock, there was no surprise. It was an exciting moment, and then seeing the players' reactions. I think I was a little surprised maybe that they brought him back, even though he was interim coach already.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys watched Terry Fontenot the other day on NFL Network, but he said that they do go back and they look at the growth of coaches and they look at the growth of players and that they maybe missed out on in the draft. And so I think for that was like, okay, well, obviously he's done great things in LA and he's ready for this. He might not have been ready in Tampa, but now that guy's ready. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, that Tampa stint that he had was more than 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you do grow a lot as a person and as a coach. I think that's a great point.
I always look at the quarterbacks he had there, and that's one of the reasons why he did have troubles. It's tough to win when you don't have a quarterback that can perform in the NFL.
And he got Josh Freeman to have a career year in 2010.
Yeah.
You know,
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. Didn't really
1
do
year
much
out of
the rest of his career, but he played well under Morris for one season. But I think it was initially kind of surprising maybe if to some people that Morris was the choice because there was so much chatter about Bill Belichick. Where did you stand on the Bill Belichick stuff?
Well, going back to the Morris thing, I thought it was cool how he left Atlanta after interviewing for that head coach job and then won a Super Bowl. So, I mean, you can't knock that.
Yeah.
With the Belichick thing, at first it was like, okay, cool, we're getting one of the greatest coaches of all time coming to Atlanta, which that's what it felt like. But I don't want to say he's outdated. That might be too far-fetched. But, I mean, he's getting up there and football evolves. And if you look around, like there's a lot of young coaches now and the players, I think they get more excited about that, and Atlanta hasn't had that fun culture for a long time. Arthur Smith was great in certain ways, but now it's time. I think Morris is going to bring that chemistry here. And I know that they said under Smith there was chemistry, but you didn't feel it as a fan, So that's where I stand on Belichick and the control thing. Obviously, Arthur Blank wants to control it, and that's what they said. Belichick didn't want to agree on that. I don't know, but
well, that's kind of one of the things that Dave and I were talking about at the time was where did the control lie, and where did Belichick want to fit into the organization? So, I agree with you. There were probably a lot of issues there.
What was your thought, Dave?
Similar to you, that I think very initially, like the first 5 seconds, hearing Morris as the head coach hire, I was unexcited. Just thought it was uninspiring, maybe is the best word. But I think that he has grown a lot as a coach, and I was hopeful that he would bring some Rams assistants with him that were Sean McVay disciples, which he's done that with Zach Robinson as offensive coordinator. He coached offense with the Falcons as an assistant wide receiver coach, whatever, on the 2016 team, the maybe best team in Falcons history. So I think he's just an overall much better coach than the national media portrays, maybe, or the average NFL fan knows. And so far, I like the staff he has assembled.
Yeah. What do you feel about how he's filled out his coaching staff since he's been hired?
Yeah. So the one surprise that I can say was Zach Robinson. Not because he's not great or anything, but it was just like, okay, Atlanta gets to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And that is awesome. What he's done over there in LA with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp and that whole offense. And then you have Jimmy Lake. And he's like Terry Fontenot 2.0. I don't know if you've watched Tori McElhaney's new series with the Falcons yet, but it was cool to see him. Like, I watched Terry's and then I watched Jimmy's, and someone had commented on the YouTube show, and it was just like, oh my gosh, the same person. So the vibes are just immaculate over there, and obviously retaining Marquise Williams as special teams, smart move. So A+ all around.
Yeah, I think we agreed. We really liked how he filled out the staff.
I like Jimmy Lake's background, and I was a little disappointed that they didn't keep Ryan Nielsen here, because I thought he made it. That defense made great strides last year under Nielsen, but looking at Jimmy Lake's background and the experience he has and teams he's worked with, players he's worked with, I'm excited to see him come here.
We have a few comments. Corey Carter says, I was at the last Morris game coach for Tampa. It was a blowout by the Falcons. It feels like a continued step back. I think the Falcons hiring Morris, he means, but I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, but as we said, Corey, that was 2011, right? That was right. Morris' last season with the Buccaneers. So he's accomplished a lot and grown as a coach. He was, I think he was around 35 at that time. So,
you have to look at what they're saying about Morris around the league now. And that's one of the things that started encouraging me, because, Dave, I was with you. I was kind of whelmed at the choice. But the fact that everybody in the league, everybody recognizes what he is, his football mind and his ability to work with players. And it seems like he has learned a lot since those Tampa years. And that's a long time ago. You gotta at some point you gotta let that go and see what he can do now.
Gary has an interesting hope. He wants Morris to be the next Dan Campbell. And that's interesting because they both were, Morris, of course, had the head coach stint in Tampa, but then the interim stint with the Falcons. Campbell started as an interim coach for the Dolphins, did not keep him. Maybe he wasn't quite ready yet, but he coached under Sean Payton in New Orleans for a few years after that. And clearly, I think he's one of the rising coaches in the league now.
I think so. Casey?
Casey Kelsey. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll answer to it.
Casey, so I get the names mixed up.
It's okay. Oh, I think, at first it's like, okay, yeah, you look at his track record, but I mean, we all grow. And if you look at yourself 10 years ago, I hope you've grown since then. And that's going back to what Terry had said on NFL Network. Like, yeah, we look at the growth and it's there. And you look at what the players and what the coaches are saying. And I mean, no offense to Arthur Smith, but you're not going to find that on him. Yes, there's players that respect him and look up to, or, respect him in a sense and will say things. But the extent that you hear from Morris is the conference, like 10 minute, thing or whatever, talking about Morris and what he's done it's a lot. That's a lot of time to talk about someone that you respect. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I think this is a great transition because you talk about growth in coaches and, of course, all people, but growth in players too, and maybe having a chance bringing back a player that you didn't get initially. And you use that as an example with Morris, letting Morris go, but bringing him back. obvious quarterback that maybe the Falcons did not get initially, but could bring in this offseason is Justin Fields. So, I mean, I think everybody in Atlanta wants to know what they're going to do at quarterback. Is Justin Fields, you think, in the realm of possibility for Atlanta this offseason?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think a lot of fans would love him. I would like him. I think he wasn't set up for success in Chicago. I think he'd come into Atlanta and just, you already have your offense, you already have your defense, and you just got to put him in there. I'm sorry. Did you not want him to leave? But the Falcons have Chicago. They have guys from Ryan Pace is still with Atlanta, I believe.
Yes.
So they have those connections to go and get that deal done. Now, I don't know what direction they really want to go, because you hear Terry saying we're going to be aggressive. Does that mean aggressive trade up, or does that mean aggressive trade in free agency?
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is,
Well, there are a lot of possibilities, because you're going to have Kirk Cousins, although apparently Minnesota's going to do everything they can to get him back in the fold after kind of collapsing last year after he tore his Achilles. But there are a lot of possibilities. You got quarterbacks coming up in the draft that are highly regarded, and Terry Fontenot is really going to earn his money this offseason trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah, which I don't know. Go ahead.
Do you have a preference for, maybe not specific quarterback, but would you prefer a veteran, experienced guy, or Justin Fields, not as experienced but younger upside, or would you prefer drafting someone?
I think that's where I'm torn, and you guys might, know better than this, but because we already have our established weapons. Atlanta already has their established weapons, and it would probably be easier to go with a veteran route just because, you don't have to really develop. You don't have to develop them and then waste Kyle Pitts again, or waste Drake London again, waste Bijan Robinson again even.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I mean, they're both exciting because then you have great prospects in the draft too. But you guys might know the answer to that.
Well, I think that just speaks to, we've talked about this for years, how we have not agreed with kind of their team building philosophy of kind of establishing the offensive weapons first before the quarterback. Whereas those guys are going to be moving off of their rookie deals by the time you get a quarterback even in the building that you like, let alone a guy established as someone that you can compete for a Super Bowl.
Right.
In some way, in some ways, they're kind of doing it backwards. You can do it any way you want, but it's kind of backwards the way that I would do it if I was building a team. But I've only built a team on Madden, so.
Well, the hell of it is, I think they felt like they had their quarterback going in. They felt like they could rehab Mariota. They felt like Ritter was better than that third-round pick. I mean, he was a borderline first-round pick when he was scouted coming out of college. But I think that's the mistakes they've made. They've overestimated what they've had at quarterback and brought in all these weapons, thinking we have these weapons. Now we have something for this quarterback to grow with, and neither Mariota nor Ritter grew.
Oh my gosh, Mariota. PTSD.
Yeah.
Nice guy. But my gosh. And Atlanta deserves, we need a passer. We need a good arm. Running is great, but we have Robinson for that. We have Algier for that. We need somebody.
So we haven't talked about Justin Fields in a while, Tom. Where do you stand on, the Bears potentially drafting a quarterback at number 1 overall? Do you want them to do that and send out Fields, or do you want a lot of draft capital again and keep Fields and keep building around him?
Well, Dave, put me on the spot. Why don't you?
Yeah. That's what we do here.
the problem with Fields is he's got tons of potential. He still has tons of potential. I still think there's an upside to Field. There are things he doesn't do that are going to frustrate Atlanta fans after a while. As I said, he will make plays that will have Patrick Mahomes looking at film in awe, at how did he do that? There are also going to be plays where you're going to be asking yourself, what the hell was he looking at? What was he seeing? He's a see it, throw it type passer. He's not a guy who anticipates. And that's going to be frustrating to a lot of fans. So I look at his record here in Chicago. The fact that despite, I know he hasn't had the perfect team around him, but sometimes a quarterback has to make that team better too. And I don't think Fields has necessarily done that. And
10-28 as a starter.
Yeah. I mean, Zach Robinson, it's possible Robinson could find something in him that the Bears didn't, because Luke Getsy really was not a good offensive coordinator. But it's frustrating after 3 years. Normally, you know what your quarterback is. And after 3 years, Fields is a spectacular player, but maybe not the quarterback you look for to bring you to the playoffs.
My thing with Justin Fields, I think you're absolutely right that he has a great highlight reel. And I think a lot of national NFL media pundits are looking at that highlight reel and being like, oh,
yeah,
the Falcons need to get that. The Steelers need to get that. Like, how awesome would that player be? Well, you're looking at the best of his plays. You're not looking at.
And that's the thing. I think that a lot of Falcons fans and Steelers fans and any other market, Washington, they could use a quarterback, but that's what they're looking at is the highlight reel. They're not looking at the entirety of his work.
Right.
I watch him every weekend.
Yeah.
And as I say, he will leave your jaw drop to the floor. He will, you can face palm yourself red, the rest of the game. It's just that frustrating to see him play. Tons of potential, but he hasn't won, and it's been 3 years. He's going into his fourth season.
Yeah, and the other thing I would bring up with Fields is you trade a second-round pick for him. Maybe that looks cheap, getting a franchise quarterback for less than a first-round pick, but then you pay him the 2024 $6 million salary, but you have to decide in May if you're going to pick up his fifth-year option.
Right.
You're already dedicating. If you give up a second-round pick for him, you're not going to not pick up that option. So you're picking up the option,
right,
which is like $21 million, I believe. So before he even plays it down, you're dedicating a second-round pick, at least. Maybe it's going to be more than that, and $25+ million.
Yeah, and I don't think the Falcons should do it. And I'm going to be interested to see which team does it, because it seems like the prevailing opinion out of Chicago, out of the media, is that they are going to draft Caleb Williams. And it seems like the guys who are really plugged in to the Bears are saying that Justin Fields is going to be traded and Caleb Williams will be the quarterback. So we'll see how that works out. It's a very fluid situation in Chicago.
I think most of our commenters agree that they would rather not. Justin Fields would rather not have Justin Fields in Atlanta. But Jason brought up an interesting point. I want to ask you, Kelsey. Do you think that's a factor with who they sign at quarterback? The
hometown kid.
I
think it's attractive. I mean, then again, I'm not a diehard Falcons fan, but I'm just the average fan. I think so. I mean, we saw Todd Gurley sell some tickets, that was cool.
Yeah.
Well, for the, for a little bit. But
Early was a little.
that's not obviously not enough. I just think, and I get, Tom, better than any of us because you watch him every weekend. But don't you think he would probably? I mean, he's better than Desmond Ridder, and this is a different offense than what he's dealing with in Chicago. I don't know. I wouldn't be mad about it, but anyway, yeah, I think he would sell some tickets, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, Jason just came up with a comment. I know winning cures all, and that's what it comes down to. Put somebody on the field who's going to win, and people will fill those seats. And I know it's frustrating for Falcons fans because they don't fill Mercedes-Benz Stadium like they should. You usually end up with a lot of opponents' fans in your seats, especially NFC South rival fans. So it is something I want to see. Yeah, I want to see Falcons fans get excited about the team and be out, on Sundays and rooting for them.
And Falcons fans are missing. I mean, who cares if we're like not the best team? The concession stands. It's cheaper than going to dinner in Atlanta. I mean, you can't beat it. And it's good. It's so good. So
it's the best thing about the stadium.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful stadium.
It's a gorgeous stadium.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right in downtown. Stadium. It's a great location. Easy to get to on the train.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So
got a lot of quarterback suggestions coming in from our
we do.
Dave is advocating for JJ McCarthy. Falcons drafting him. He will be available at 8, probably could even be available into the teens. Is the earliest I've seen him go in a mock draft. And Tony throws out Bo Nix from Oregon as a possibility.
Yeah, I heard Bo Nix had a pretty good Senior Bowl, especially in practice. I don't think any of the quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl did well, but Bo Nix seemed to impress in practice. JJ McCarthy, I've seen a lot of split opinion about him. Some say that he needs to sit behind an established quarterback for a little while, kind of like, Jordan Love. And some say that he could be ready. He's played a lot of quarterback at Michigan. He's taken a lot of snaps. And a lot of coaches seem to read a lot into that. Once they see a quarterback start taking a lot of snaps over a quarterback who's maybe just played a senior year or part of the senior year, and then coming out and available to be drafted. McCarthy is experienced in the pocket.
Kelsey, would you say there are, if you had to name 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are going to be at the combine next week that Falcons fans should keep an eye on, who would you say those 2 or 3 guys are?
As far as Falcons, who they might draft, I think Drake May and Jaden Daniels for sure. And then if you're looking at those other guys, that's going to be Bo Nix and McCarthy. But the Falcons can't sit there and say, I think there's just too many red flags with McCarthy and Nix. That's why they're not higher on the board. And the Falcons can't afford to they just can't afford to mess this up. So that's where a lot of this is like, I have no idea which way they're going to go. This is like now. They have to make the decision, the right one now. Terry's gone, might be gone after if they don't. So
yeah, and as you said, they have all of those good pieces in place on offense that are going to start getting more expensive, getting off rookie contracts. They need a quarterback to make those players useful.
Right. That's the thing. You've got all your specialty players in place, and you didn't put the quarterback in place. So it's, I agree with you, Kelsey. He's got to get it right now. He has to get it right this season, or else everything he's done to build the team it goes away because he's going to end up losing some of these pieces that he thought he was putting in place.
outside of quarterback, what would you say is the next biggest or next couple biggest needs the Falcons should address in free agency?
An edge. I think we can agree on that, right?
Wow.
They need to go big on Brian Burns. Okay, Brian Burns. They got Jesse last year. It's time to spend money on Burns, which would be awesome. I kind of like the Panthers. I know I'm not allowed to say that, but it'd be cool to. They're right up the road, so they have a great stadium and good food too.
Charlotte's a good craft beer scene.
It is.
Well. Yeah.
It's the mini Atlanta. That's what they call it. But I think go after Brian Burns, and that should be their big move this free agency.
I'd love to see Burns, but the problem is I was reading the other day, he wants $30 million to come in. And he's a very good edge rusher, but he has not produced to the point where he should be the second best paid edge rusher in the NFL. So I'm not so sure that they are going to end up with Burns unless they can get him to really come down on that salary. That's a rough one to take. I'm interested to see if the Jaguars will franchise tag Josh Allen. I'd love to see Josh Allen here. So, but Dave and I have been talking about this for 3 years, Kelsey. Edge rusher. Get the edge rusher. Yeah. We have said that year after year, and it hasn't happened.
Now, okay, back to I'm sorry. Now it's my show. No, back to the Jaguars. Calvin Ridley. What the heck? These rumors of him returning to Atlanta, which that's actually when I met Dave. Remember that, Dave?
That is right. That was that same day. Yeah. It was also my birthday. Remember that?
Yeah, that was such a. And the Braves were in the playoff or the World Series.
It was the World Series. It was Game 5, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big day.
So,
it was.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But
and I think they played Carolina that day. Carolina won.
Yes. Yeah, it was a sad day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, wasn't it all field goals or something? It's like
it
13-12 and somebody scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter or something.
And Ryan had this bloody hand, and it looked bigger than what it was. Remember, his hand was gushing blood from a cleat. Anyways.
Yeah, he got cleated. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you remember that?
But
yeah, really returning. I don't know if I see that happening. Do you think? Would you like that to happen, Kelsey?
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, another weapon, but he kind of gave up on the Falcons. Yes. Whatever he was going through, so it doesn't sit right.
Yeah, and the change of scenery really benefited him. He had a great season in Jacksonville, and I think he probably, again, another fresh start somewhere else is probably his best foot forward, best path forward.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so too. I really don't want to see him back in Atlanta. I wasn't impressed with his season last year either with the Jaguars. So let him move forward, let him move on with another team and try and establish himself.
Corey says, yes, it was a sad day because the Braves lost Game 5, but it was exciting at the possibility of them clinching a World Series.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I introduced my best friend to her. We were at Taco Mac because it was a home game. It was a home game.
Yes.
Yes.
I think you said you were going to check out the Battery. Did you end up going to the Battery?
Yeah, I went to the Battery, and it was just so packed. I was hungry, and I love Taco Mac. So we went to Taco Mac near the closest one near the Battery. And it was packed there too, of course. And this guy was sitting alone, drinking a beer. Sorry, this is a side story, but I think it's very important. He was drinking a beer alone. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just ask to use his table to use his server, to get a beer because it was just so crazy in there. Now he's dating one of my best friends. So,
Oh, nice.
and it's been how long ago was that? Like 3 years ago? 4
Yeah.
years? Oh my gosh, 3 years.
3 years.
And he should be proposing soon, but I would like to take all the credit for that.
I think you get at least the assist.
Yeah. I love the battery. I want my ashes spread there, at least some of them. The food's great too.
A little more expensive than the food at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but
Yeah.
Great food.
Yeah.
Todd has a question for you, Kelsey.
Oh no.
Were you aware the Rams got 2 third-round picks for Morris getting hired? Was this motivation from Rams over top praise that swayed blank? Todd, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't see a question mark. Where's the question?
He's telling us. No, honestly, I wasn't.
Were you aware of this happening? I guess is the question.
No, I wasn't.
He probably, I think the question is, was the hype part of the reason that swayed blank and told him to get Raheem Morris? And I think he's.
I think the hype, was Zach Robinson and Lake and what they can bring. Because Morris went in there. Well, I'm getting all the names mixed up. Morris went in there with a plan, and that's what they said. Like, he had the best plan, and it was like who he could bring over with him, and step by step. And I think that's what persuaded him. I don't know about the picks. Yeah, that might be a bone. Or the Rams got the picks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Might be. I don't know. I just don't think. I don't know. I don't know about that. But I think there was different other bigger factors than the picks.
Well, I think there's bigger factors than the hype. I think they actually believe that Morris is the guy. So, previous head coaching experience, and I think the hype is real. I think a lot of people. So I think that's what swayed them the most is the fact that you got the only real candidate out there that had head coaching experience before and knows what he's getting into.
Tony agrees with you, Kelsey, that he would love for Brian Burns to come to Atlanta, would like them to also re-sign Calais Campbell and sign a young free agent like AJ Espinosa. I think, Tony, that's a great to-do list that the Falcons should definitely consider. I think Danielle Hunter is another name I'd like to float out as a edge target, a little bit older than Burns or Allen, but maybe that could cause him to be a little cheaper if price is a concern. So Hunter has been a great producer of sacks in his career for the Vikings.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up actually. So I'm glad it was already brought up. But yeah, he was another name I was going to put into the conversation. He's not 30 yet. He's still got some years ahead of him.
What about from the Falcons, free agents, other free agents that they should re-sign from their own list?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about that too. Who do you think they bring back? And who do you think is worth bringing back?
Wrote a list. My head gets discombobulated. Okay, I think Keith Smith. I mean, they could bring him back pretty cheap, right? I just love Keith Smith. We need him. Great special teamer, Bud Dupree. Yeah. Hey. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And I think we need Nate Landman back.
I was going to ask you about that too, because
I like Van Jefferson. I think everyone should come back now. But seriously, I think those are. I mean, I honestly don't know the price tags on all of them, but I think they have to be pretty reasonable, right?
I think the 4 guys you named, yeah.
Yeah, the guys you named, yes. The one name that stands out to me that I wanted to ask you about was Jeff Okudah in the secondary as a corner.
No.
Wouldn't bring him back.
I'm sorry. I don't know. No, I didn't. He's not one of my favorites. And I think he is one of the higher priced guys.
He's going to be, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't, they can they can find another guy in the draft, or another guy in free agency for, a lower price.
Yeah, because I looked at SpotTrack and they have his market value at about $14 million. So that's quite a price tag for a guy who I thought played well last year, but still did. I think they're still looking at him as that third overall pick, and you can't take that into account anymore. The production isn't going to be anywhere near 14 million.
Yeah. I kind of doubt he's going to get that contract, but.
Well, I'm just reading off what SpotTrack has as far as what they feel is an annual salary. But yeah, I think he showed that he does belong in the NFL last season, but he didn't show that, the Lions really made a mistake in releasing him, letting him go as a third overall draft pick. He didn't quite make that case.
Yeah.
But I agree. I'd love to see Dupree come back.
Was one of the sack leaders. Yeah. So nice. I like him too. Just his presence.
So go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I like him as well. I just want, as we have said, we want the team to add a bona fide number one edge rusher. You don't want Bud Dupree to be your number one edge rusher, but love him for his depth that he can provide.
But that's where, and then Calais Campbell might come back too, right? Do you think they could bring him back on a reasonable price? I know, like you guys said, he's older, but he still produced.
Campbell, yeah, I think they should resign him. Yes, I think he had a good season.
But he's going to be 38 next year. And
he's amazing.
Yeah, he is amazing. I will give you that. And he's a first ballot Hall of Famer in my book. But my problem is at some point, he's not the guy who's going to bring it every down like a more quality, like a Burns or an Allen or anyone as an edge rusher. He will bring it. I thought last year the Falcons were picking him up to kind of be that third down edge rusher, that long distance, second and long, third and long edge rusher, somebody who could disrupt the game, being what he is. I didn't expect him to be as every down as he was last year. So I would love to see him back, but he can't be your every down defensive end. And Arnold Ebiketie isn't ready to take that spot either. So you've got to get one.
Well, I think that's what Kelsey and I are saying, that you bring in Brian Burns and then you supplement him with Campbell and Bud Dupree.
And then
if you can get his salary down.
Yeah. And I think he would maybe possibly negotiate, agree to that. Seems like a decent guy.
Well, he just to get out of Carolina, he might.
Yeah. Or it doesn't have to be Burns. It could be Hunter. It could be Allen.
Oh, you're talking about Burns. Okay, I was thinking about Campbell. I thought, okay, I'm sorry.
Well, I just don't think Campbell can be your every down guy.
Well, no, but the Eagles have Brandon Graham, and he just goes in for these big plays. And I know I covered the Eagles a lot, but that guy is that veteran in the locker room that brings they need him, and Campbell can be that guy in Atlanta, and then, like we said, bring in the other guys.
Yeah.
If the cap falls into place, or the money.
I like Campbell as a leader of that defensive line.
Yeah. Yes.
Someone who could show them what it takes to be, that top of the line edge rusher.
Right. And that would be great for whenever they draft, if they draft one, if they end up drafting one, for that too.
Who do you think becomes a cap casualty before the league year starts in March? Cordero Patterson's already gone. Cap savings of a couple million. Who else do you think goes that would save the Falcons cap space and give them more cap space to maneuver with?
Yeah, well, the obvious, Tyler Heineke.
Yeah.
And then I know a lot of people are going back and forth in this, and I want to know what you all think is Jonnu Smith.
I think he's definitely a cap casualty. I think he has to be.
Yeah, he has to. I guess it is a business.
It would be a $6.5 million cap savings. Jonnu Smith, Arthur Smith used Jonnu Smith like he was his feature tight end. And he's not a featured tight end.
And we have Zach Robinson.
Player, but Smith fell in love with him to the, and unfortunately Kyle Pitts paid for that. But you could save a lot of cap space, and I don't think you lose anything by replacing Jonnu Smith. Yeah, you got to replace him, but he's not worth the cap money he's going to get next season.
Jason, no, there's language in Arthur Smith's contract with the Steelers. He's not allowed to acquire Jonnu Smith. No, Arthur Smith's not.
Arthur Smith would. So stuck on those Titans. Which, Dave, are you kind of a Steelers fan if you're from?
Kind of would be a huge understatement.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Steelers fan.
That's so funny that you have to do Smith again. I'm so sorry. Maybe in a better way this time.
I think he's going to be better as offensive coordinator. I hope anyway. But it's funny covering the Steelers, and I've covered the Steelers for heavy, and the Falcons here, because they're kind of in the same problem. They have the same problems. They have the same potential solutions. Justin Fields, draft a quarterback. Arthur Smith in Atlanta, now he's in Pittsburgh. It's the similarities are pretty funny right now.
Yeah, they are. Well, I see another name coming up in the comments that I was going to bring up also is Mike Hughes. Would save the Falcons a little over $3 million on the cap. And I don't think produced the way the Falcons thought he was going to produce last year when they signed him. And I think he's definitely could be a cap casualty as we head into February and March.
Yeah, for sure.
Lorenzo Carter, another name thrown out there.
I don't know if I want to see Carter go. I would like to see Carter come back. I think Carter's good, the kind of a solid player that you really need on this team. So I would kind of like to see Lorenzo Carter stay. I contemplated whether he should be someone on the firing line, but you say $3 million on the cap with him, but I still like the kind of player he is. I don't think you really need to let him go. The Falcons are still in great cap shape. So you don't have to do too much to fine-tune the salary cap.
Yeah, and you found out yesterday the NFL announced that there was a $30 million increase in the salary cap from last season. Unprecedented. It's biggest jump ever from one season to the next in salary cap space.
Isn't all that Amazon Prime and Nickelodeon money, all that stuff?
Taylor Swift.
Great. Oh, Taylor Swift. Yeah,
Taylor Swift. Thank you, Taylor.
Isn't that all great stuff? The Nickelodeon stuff is hilarious to me to watch them do a game.
I'm so jealous.
Excuse me, I'm still fighting a cold. But it's funny how all these revenue streams are hitting. Yeah, I didn't even see that, Dave. That's interesting that they're So get out of the way. It's interesting to see that they are going to up the cap that much. A lot of players are going to love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good time to be a free agent. A lot of teams are in much better cap situation. And it could mean, someone like Lorenzo Carter or even Jonnu Smith, maybe they don't get cut because you don't need the extra space, perhaps, because you got extra space with the cap going up higher.
That could be very possible.
Or maybe you can fit Burns for $30 million a year now.
Well, I wouldn't fit him for $30 million a year. He still doesn't. He's never had double-digit sacks.
He could in Atlanta. Different vibe.
In Atlanta.
He could in Atlanta. Don't give up on him, Tom.
I think he's a quality guy. I'm not giving up on him. I just want to see more out of him before you want to give up that kind of money.
Yeah, well, Lake can get it out of him.
Okay.
We're gonna trust Jimmy Lake. Well,
he did have 12.5 sacks 2 years ago.
He had what?
He had 12.5 in 2020.
12.5. All right, he has had double-digit sacks. All right, fine.
Sorry, I cut you off, Kelsey.
No, it's okay. Yeah. I'm curious as what y'all think wide receiver wise, free agents. Not us. I mean, I know we have multiple, but I'm looking out across the league.
Like who they could sign?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question because I don't know if there are. Well, T. Higgins is going to be available.
Actually, I don't think he is. This morning, the Bengals franchise tagged him.
Oh, did they franchise tag him? Okay. I'll be dead. This stuff happens so fast.
Tom, you gotta stay.
I know it was late. It was 10 p.m.
I guess I got to get up earlier in the morning before the show. I missed that Saturday morning news.
I don't know how realistic it is, but it's a fun hypothetical for the offseason. Mike Evans.
I was just going to say that.
I don't
Wouldn't
think
that be fun to see Evans in an Atlanta uniform?
Yeah. I don't think he's going back to Tampa. And how much would you love to take a great player from your division rival that just won your division? I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and who could still do it. It really is still an excellent receiver. So,
but there are quite a few good ones available. Corey throws out OBJ. I don't think I would be the biggest advocate for that. I think he's still getting love for that great catch like 10 years ago now in 2014. People love that catch so much they still think of that when they think of OBJ, and that was a long time ago. But Michael Pittman is available, maybe if he's not franchise tagged in Indianapolis. There's quite a few good possibilities.
Brown, an heir from Cardinals, is available.
Yeah.
So.
Jason Greenway brings up, needing a speedster to stretch the field. You see, that's what Van Jefferson was supposed to be last year, and really never was the receiver. I don't think he has the hands to make other teams respect him, other secondaries respect him, draw safety and coverage as well as the corner. And I think that's what the Falcons need. They need that speed guy who can take the top off the defense, make things easier for Pitts, makes things easier for Bijan Robinson. And that's what I'm really looking for. I agree with Jason that they do have to get that speed wide receiver.
I'm going in the opposite direction, not a speed wide receiver, but somebody else from Cincinnati that I think would be a nice fit. Tyler Boyd would be a nice slot option, really good blocker.
Yeah.
I think that would be someone that would be a good complementary piece as well. Wouldn't be as much money either as someone like Evans or Pittman.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I think would be a great receiver for this Falcons offense, someone who could play off of London. London gets double teamed too much. He's not the easiest target because it's hard to fit a ball into him sometimes. And he's not fast. So that's the problem is London, you have to kind of help him create separation. And I think Boyd help out with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not oppose to that.
So, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities as far as receiver. Do you think Fontenot, he spent a lot of last offseason going defense, showing up what was a terrible defense. Do you think he goes offense this year? Spends more time trying to fill offensive holes?
Yeah. I mean, now it's just about balancing it, I feel like, because we have, Falcons. Falcons they're solid on both sides. But are you talking about the draft or just the offseason in general?
I think either.
Yeah.
Draft or free agency.
Well, I'm curious as to what you guys think. I'm sorry, we're bouncing around, but with the draft, you guys.
Dave and I do that all the time.
With this, so the draft, if they don't for some reason go quarterback, which I don't know if a rookie is the best idea for I'm so afraid. I don't want Kyle Pitts and I don't want Drake London to get wasted. And it's just been so sad to see. But I think obviously Zach Robinson's going to help a lot with that. If they don't go quarterback, if they don't go Drake May, which I would take. But obviously I love everybody. That would be such a bad GM. If they don't take Drake May, where are they going to go? If they don't take a quarterback at number 8.
Well, and that's the thing. To me, that's where you get your edge rusher.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get him at free agency, that's where you get him in the draft.
Yeah.
So let's see. I know Kirk Cousins is still up there in age, but he's still got an arm. He can hit all the passes. He can make all the throws. He can get the ball downfield. As I say, the Bears being in the NFC North, I've seen plenty of Kirk Cousins, and he can still make the throws, and he can make the pressure throws. And I still think he's a very capable quarterback. He's at the tail end of his career. You got to get somebody who can sit down behind him and groom. But I think if you want to win this year, Cousins is the guy. And I think the Falcons really need to make an effort to bring him in.
But if they don't, I'm saying, well, yeah, okay. If they don't dress the QB in the draft, they'll dress it in the or in a trade. And obviously they would have to trade up for the best QB in the draft. But at number 8, if they go a different position, you're saying edge, and then Kirk Cousins. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd, I know he's coming off the Achilles injury. He could still make all the throws. Players come back from the Achilles injuries these days. He's off the 35. He's got a couple of years still ahead of him. He's still got a strong arm. So don't down Kirk Cousins because of that. That's all right. Todd and I do this every week.
Does he mean he'd rather have me play quarterback, or is there a different Dave I'm not thinking of?
I don't know.
Definitely
you.
He'd rather have you playing quarterback. Yes.
You don't want me playing quarterback. We could be playing football on a beach. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Tom. I don't know about Kirk Cousins, but at least the go for a big splash in free agency quarterback, and if you want the edge at number 8, which I would not disagree with. I think your point about not wanting to waste the talent you have on offense is very warranted, but I've been calling for them to draft an edge rusher in the first round in the top 10 for a couple years now. So if there's no obvious, if it's like JJ McCarthy at number 8 or an edge rusher, I would go edge rusher. But
the thing is, I think you could get JJ McCarthy in a later round and use him as your kind of guy that you sit and learn and let him get some experience and be behind whoever you get as your number 1 quarterback. I'm sorry, Kelsey.
It's okay.
As I said, I work with somebody whose name is very similar to yours. That's frustrating.
It's honestly the same name, so it's okay.
But Kelsey, Do you see if Falcons get a quarterback, can they be a playoff team next year?
Yes.
Can they put themselves in
100%. 100%, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if they're not, that city's gonna light on fire. They should just not have a football team. If that doesn't happen, the Atlanta Falcons are canceled.
I have a follow-up. Do you say that because of the division they're in, or do you say that because of the confidence you have in the rest of the roster?
It's the division, it's the roster, it's the coaching changes, it's everything. I mean, we're going to see Bijan Robinson, hopefully, at 1,000%. You know, we're not going to see – he was great last year, but, I mean, it was still – there could have been a lot more, but we're going to see the full Robin – we're going to see everyone playing their best. And if they don't – they have to make the playoffs. I mean, it's NFC South. They should have made the playoffs this year, so –
I wouldn't argue that. They should have. They should have, even with Desmond Ridder as their quarterback.
Or Heineken.
But I don't think they used their weapons very well. It was rough because, I don't think Bijan Robinson was used well at all. And Dave and I talked about that a lot during the season. It was rough to watch.
Yeah.
Corey throws out Penix also being another possibility to target for quarterback a little bit later in the draft, not in the top 10, but maybe second round, maybe trade up back into the first round late on day one. That's a possibility too. I mean, the Ravens did that for Lamar Jackson. You get the 5th year on the contract, and you don't have to, get your guy in the top 10. You give up less capital to get somebody you like a little bit later on.
Right.
So that's a possibility, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Today's show was brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So some free money for you, and it supports our show. Just use that promo code ASU. We're just about out of time.
Well, and remember with Prize Picks, you got baseball season coming up. They played baseball games yesterday.
2 days ago, they had one game.
Okay.
So a lot of them
yesterday.
Last 2 days, we've had baseball.
The White Sox, yeah. Okay.
It's made me very happy, yeah.
I know. You love the Cubs. Yes, Dave.
No, I was saying it made me very happy baseball was on TV. Not the Cubs losing was just an extra bonus.
Oh, my God. David, I'm telling you.
So, but let's end today's show, Kelsey, with we talked about several draft prospects already, but is there anybody that we haven't mentioned that Falcons fans should have their eyes on with the Combine next week?
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I just have 2 guys. There's so many prospects that I'll have to sit down and look at. But I kind of like looking at our later, because we already know what to expect from the top guys for the most part. But FSU wide receiver Johnny Wilson, possibly a day 2 pick, maybe even a day 3. But he is a 6'7", 237-pound guy, and he did really well at FSU. And I think that if the Falcons want to address their wide receiver needs, he might be the guy. So I think it's going to be nice to see if he can boost his draft stock a little there. And then Alabama edge Chris Braswell. I'm going to be watching him. They say he's too slow. He has great wingspan, or armed, whatever, the length. The important part, I honestly don't know what to look for there. But I'm going to, as a possible later round edge to bring on, look at him. So just those 2 possibly keep an eye out, just to see.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many mock drafts. It's incredible. There's a website dedicated to keeping track of all the mock drafts online.
I had that idea and I didn't do it. I should have did that.
You should have.
You could almost have a mock draft show. Just talking mock drafts. I mean, there's so many of them out there. And they change from every 2 weeks. You get a new one.
Right. But
from the same writer. So
right, yes. But my point was going to be that we have so many already in the first, month of the offseason for a lot of teams, but we've only like 2 weeks into the offseason for the Super Bowl teams. But everything, maybe not everything, but a lot of stuff's going to change next week, where we see guys interview. Some guys will rise, some guys will fall because they didn't interview well, they didn't test well on those the Wonderlic thing, and then you have of course the stuff that we watch on NFL Network, all the on-field testing. So I'm interested to see from a Falcons perspective, but just from a draft perspective, which guys rise and which guys fall on mock drafts because of their combine performance.
And this draft class, it just seems like it's stacked with a lot more talent than we saw last year. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely a quarterback, which is what drives so much of the offseason discussions.
Well, it's going to drive our discussion for the next few weeks too, because there are almost too many options at quarterback to go over right now for the Falcons. There are a lot of places you can look and say, yes, the Falcons can go here with our quarterback and still come out with a good one, still come out with one we can compete with.
Yeah.
She's Kelsey Kramer, AtoZ Sports writer, covering the NFL there at AtoZSports.com. Kelsey, what's your Twitter handle? Give it to our audience.
Oh, Kramer NFL.
Follow her on Twitter. Thank you for joining us today, Corey. Appreciated your coming on as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic having you here. It's great having a guest because Dave and I keep sparring at each other all the time. So it's always nice to get that extra opinion in there, get another set of opinions out.
Well, thank you. I hope I did okay. I haven't done this in forever, but it was really fun. You guys are fun.
You did great.
I enjoyed it. We'll have to have you back.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Maybe, after all the excitement dies down and we finally see how this roster starts looking, definitely would love to have you back and then do this again. So, Dave.
Thank you, everybody who joined us. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Have a great week, everyone.